Hi guys, thank you everyone for joining us today for our Wake Up with Wasatch webinar. My name is Kayla. I'm on the marketing team at Wasatch Crest. And today we have our CEO and founder, Jim Huffman, and our clinical director, Rich McDonald, hosting this webinar. And they're going to be talking about practicing leadership as mental health care professionals, which they know a lot about. So I'm excited to learn from them today, and I hope you guys are too. A couple of things before we start. They will be taking questions at the end. So the way that you ask questions is by going into your GoToWebinar control panel and going into the questions sidebar. And if you just toggle that arrow, you can type in the question and we'll make sure that they get answered. So feel free to ask questions as they come to your mind, and we'll get them answered at the end. And then also located in that GoToWebinar control panel, you'll find a few handouts about Wasatch Crest. So in that handout sidebar, you'll find an overview of our admissions process and then our program overview. And you can download those PDFs straight from there and take them with you. And then also in that handout section is the deck that Jim and Rich will be going over today. I think that's all I have for you guys. So I will let Rich and Jim take it away. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you, Kayla. Appreciate the introduction. Good morning, early afternoon, I guess, everybody, depending on where you are and what time zone you're in. Really happy to be here today and to get to share a little bit of our story and really a lot of the background behind Wasatch Crest and speak to some of the issues about leadership in our industry, which is a super important topic. By way of background, both Rich and I have had, careers and worked in different industries. So we bring, I would say a diversity of experience to what we do here at Wasatch Crest. And both of us found our way into this industry and into what we're doing today by virtue of our own respective recoveries. Rich and I are both in recovery, and this for us is really an opportunity to do something that's both, a vocation, but in an area that we are very passionate about. And so we thought it would be, interesting and helpful to talk about a little bit of our history together. Rich and I have known each other for what, 20 years now?
Yeah, easily.
Almost
20. Yeah.
Almost 20 years. We met as ultra runners. Actually, Rich and I were both competitive ultra marathon trail runners. For those of you who don't know what an ultra marathon is, it's anything longer than a marathon. So a marathon's 26 miles, 26.2 to be exact. And an ultra marathon is anything longer than that. And we ran these crazy 50 to 100 mile mountain trail races, and for many years. And Rich is still running them. I'm retired. And and we met as friends, fellow runners, training partners, and we developed a really strong bond together during that time. This is actually before either of us were in recovery, and we've stayed close for all of these years as friends. And so we both found our way into recovery thereafter, and we both found our way into this industry after getting sober. And the interesting thing is that, in recovery, sometimes we talk about, in God's world, there are no accidents and no coincidences. And, Rich, well, I'll let you talk about the founding of the original program here, and then why don't we talk a little bit about the transition of ownership, and then we can work our way into the kind of the leadership style and some of the differences.
Okay, perfect.
Sound good?
Yeah, so I started here as a therapist when we first opened. First group I ran, we had 2 clients, and really pretty short time after we initially opened, the clinical director that had hired me took a job and somewhere else and moved on, and suddenly I was in the position of really building out a program that we had started several months before, but really adding some of the clinical aspects of it, really from the ground up, which was really a wonderful opportunity for me. You know, the initial owners were in the industry because of some family members. They had a ton of heart and never had run a treatment center before, so that posed some problems. But you know, we were able to really build an incredible culture here with the on-site and operations staff, and build a program that made a big difference in a lot of people's lives. And as we progressed for, I guess, let's see, June 29th this summer, it was 6 years from the original, from my first day on the job up here. And as it progressed, we were able to build a really solid clinical program. And the owners had some personal stuff going on, and you know, found themselves looking at you know, wanting to sell the program. So I was able to call Jim, and by some miracle, several months later, that happened. So it's been, you know, I would say the biggest difference since Jim bought the company was just the support that we have, you know, from the ground up, building a solid team and really adding some sophistication to what we're doing. You know, the client care, I truly believe, was really good from the start. But you know, we always fell short in the ownership arena and having the support to do what it is that we need to do to be the best that we can be. So that happened 3 years ago, and it's been beautiful since then. We've accomplished a lot, you know, milestones like Joint Commission accreditation and in-network contracts, and really built a team around, you know, a bigger vision, which I don't know that we necessarily had a real clear vision initially, other than wanting to help people. So, yeah.
That's super helpful, Rich. Thank you. And I think the key part of that, and this really plays into the origin story a little bit, is that you know, about a year prior to buying this company, you know, I had made a decision, having had a you know, a long sort of work history in other industries and large companies and doing things like that, and generally a business background. You know, I saw an opportunity in this industry to create something special, to bring, you know, good, solid, ethically based ownership in an area where it was needed. And so with the, you know, and Wasatch Crest is not not unique in the sense that there is a tremendous need in our industry for the services that we provide. And sadly, I think there aren't enough. There are a lot of providers. I don't think there are enough good ones, and you know, good ones are needed, that provide, you know, put clients first and do the things that we do here at Wasatch Crest. And so, you know, Rich alluded to some of the challenges that the previous company, or the initial company, faced. And you know, what I guess would highlight is a sort of lack of alignment between the ownership and the team, really. And so I want to be as sort of positive as possible, but it was, you know, it was I would say, poorly owned program, and with a really good operating team. And when I acquired the company, you know, Rich and I sat down and we wanted to rebrand it. We wanted to make it personal to us. And so we thought, and we talked about different potential names for the program, and we also wanted to establish a brand that would represent who we were and what we were all about. And, you know, we wanted it to represent something personal to us, something about our journey together as friends, our journey together into recovery, and our journey together really into this industry. And to have, you know, rejoined forces after a long-term friendship, to be able to work together in this industry was something that we thought was pretty special. And so we wanted there to be some connection to that story. And the first idea we came up with was the Wasatch Front Treatment Center, because the Wasatch Front 100 was the trail race that we ran together for lots of years, and that just didn't have a really great ring to it. So we came up with Wasatch Crest Treatment Services, and Wasatch Crest, for those of you who may or may not know, is a very prominent trail that runs through the Rocky Mountains and most of the western United States, all the way up to the Northwest. It's a famous trail that runs for very long distances, and it's the trail here in and around Salt Lake City that we trained on every day, the Wasatch Crest Trail. And so the name Wasatch Crest Treatment Services has sort of special meaning to us because it represents our story together over these many years, and it's also important because it represents the outdoors, I think, which is an area that we find peace and connection and in our recovery, and it's a gift that we try to share with all of the clients who come through Wasatch Crest. So that rebranding process was really important. The name is meaningful to us, and we think it's also meaningful to what we're about here, in the sense that it's, you know, as an owner, you know, I want to create a supportive environment for our team to do their best work. And I think participation is, you know, sort of leading by example is also something that's really, really important in our industry. You know, we see, again, a lot of programs in our industry, too many, unfortunately, that look for any possible way, any loophole to abuse the system for financial gain. And, you know, from the founding of this company and from day one of the new ownership here at Wasatch Crest, we have exercised impeccable ethics in everything that we do. We don't take advantage of the system. We put clients first. We don't participate in lab relationships. We never have that have any kind of financial connection to them. We don't buy clients. We don't pay for people's insurance and sign them up. We have really made it a point to, from early on, I think, to establish a brand, to put clients first, and to be a name in the industry that people trust.
Absolutely.
And I think there's some differences there, you know, versus either other programs or versus maybe even the prior owners of this program.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that rebranding process, I think, was really, really critical.
Well, right. And speaking to the ethics too, like that's one of the things that we had to kind of commit to early on, was that there were probably faster ways to immediately, you know, affect our bottom line, but doing it the right way we knew would take a little bit longer. And with that in mind, we were able to really move forward and not take the shortcuts that, you know, especially, you know, our industry has been through a lot of changes in the past several years, but there was people all over the place telling you how to take shortcuts, and most of those programs, you know, aren't around anymore. And it's really been something that we stuck to, we committed to early on, and have been able to continue through the last 3 years. It's been good.
And I think that messaging is important, you know, for really a couple of different audiences. I mean, if we're, if we're having a conversation with a potential client or their family, or even for our referral partners, it's that ethical foundation and that brand and that trust is really important for people to know that it's a little bit of the why, why we do this, and that we're in it for the right reasons and that we put people first. And I think that's something that really has resonated well with our various partners.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it resonates well with clients and families and we hear that,
Absolutely.
that they feel that difference when they come here. They don't feel like a number or a dollar sign or something like that, that they really genuinely feel that those ethics and those values and those things that we're about really bleed through into the quality of our care and the feeling that you get when you come here to Wasatch Crest.
Absolutely. And it's one of the things, with the focus of leadership, it's if we've got clinicians on, I'm sure you've heard people tell stories, but there really is, there's this inherent conflict, I think, unfortunately, a lot of times between the business side and the clinical side. But I absolutely believe those two can align really well if you do it the right way. And it's just, again, it's not about taking the shortcuts, right? Like, we can do the right thing and still have a positive culture, and the interests of the clients and the staff on site and the clinicians can absolutely be aligned with the bigger picture. And it really does. It takes commitment, but it can be done, and it makes a difference. Most people, I know with myself, going back to school and becoming a therapist, I did it because I wanted to affect change and make my community a better place, and be a part of the solution. And I get to do that. And if you can work in a culture that allows you to do that, it makes all the difference in the world. And I think we've been able to do a really good job of that here.
I think that's a really good point, Rich. And I think, as it relates to leadership and alignment and all those things, I think most people who work in our industry find their way into the industry because they do want to make a difference. They want to help people. They want to share, for those who are in recovery who work in the industry, you want to share the same gift that you feel like you were given. And for many who aren't in recovery, it's the reason people become school teachers, and people find their way into this industry and become public servants, and they have a desire to serve and to make others' lives better. And I think, when you have a culture that, and I'll just use an example. I mean, we really established this early on. It's, I wish we could do more of this than we can, but when we had clients early on who, let's say maybe their insurance ran out, or their insurance didn't work out, or they didn't have any resources or something like that, we've always allocated a certain number of our beds and a certain amount of our space here at Wasatch Crest to helping people who maybe didn't have resources, or they needed an extra week of time, or an extra 2 weeks or 10 days or something like that. And I don't think we've ever had a case where we have not supported someone in that particular circumstance. And I think that really ties back into culture. When you have a team of people who are dedicated to a mission of helping people and helping make lives better, it feels good, I think, to work for a company where those things matter. And I've been a witness to other companies in our industry where one day a particular insurance payer maybe stopped all payments to them for the clients who were with that insurance, and I've seen 40 clients get discharged in the same day, basically told to pack their things and shown to the door. And imagine yourself in that circumstance where you don't know where to go. You don't have any resources. You've got your bags in your hands and you're standing on the curb outside the facility's door. And so I think from our perspective, you know, and candidly imagine working for that program and feeling brokenhearted to see those people walk out the door knowing that, you know, most of them are probably not going to find a good place to land. And most of them are going to probably go back in the direction that they came from. And so I think all these things tie together with the mission, the vision, the alignment between the ownership and the entire team, and really building that culture that supports the mission of what we're here to do, which is to help people rebuild their lives.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I think that kind of carries right over to the idea, you know, the slide that's up now, personalizing the treatment experience. And the reason this is important to me is one of the things that we've really tried to do is allow the clients or the staff and the clinicians the ability to be flexible with clients. Like everybody says, personalized treatment, and it's going to address the underlying causes. Well, the reality is that takes a lot of work and it takes flexibility on our part. So whether it's something along the lines of, you know, for example, we brought a new clinician on a couple months ago, and part of the reason he chose to drive 45 minutes from Salt Lake Valley to work every day is the ability and the flexibility that we can provide him to offer the treatment that he thinks is going to be best for that particular client. Whether it's taking somebody for a bike ride and then doing a session after that, or taking a hike with a client. Just the little things like really identifying how to best serve the client. And then it's my job as the clinical director to help them have the flexibility to implement those things that they think is best for the client. You know, it is super important to us that when our clients get here, they feel loved, welcomed, and they get that individualized treatment. And it also goes to the transition back into, you know, the real world and getting back into life. You know, one of the things, a good example recently is with COVID. All of that happened, and it made providing outpatient treatment really difficult. So we stepped back and said, okay, so how are we going to do this? We can't have people coming in for evening IOP. What are we going to do to support them in that process of reintegrating into life? So we put together a virtual IOP program 3 weeks ago. Let's see, well, this is the second full week. And, you know, we've got about 80% of our clients that are leaving treatment since it started have agreed to continue with the virtual IOP, which has been a really cool experience to be able to get them, you know, they log in through Zoom and we can process what's going on and give them the support that they need while they're getting back to their families and their real life and jobs and all of those things that come along with recovery. It's been super supportive, but it's just little things like that, being able to have the space to react and respond. I guess respond is the right word, to those particular clients and those situations. And being open-minded, you know, there's a whole lot of ways to go at recovery, and it's our job to help the client find that, but also hold them accountable and have structure and be honest with them and make recommendations, you know, based on our clinical knowledge and what we're seeing. But that really is a leadership piece, right? Like really listening to everybody. Everybody has a seat at the table, and we make sure that that happens and make sure that we follow through with what we say we're going to do. So that's important.
And I think from a, you know, ownership perspective, you know, I view my role as the owner is really supporting our team in doing the work that they do. You know, what can I do to be a resource provider, a coach, a mentor, and a strong supporter of creating an environment here at Wasatch Crest that supports our team in doing the very things that Rich just described. You know, I think it's the difference between, you know, feeling like you're part of a team that's constantly swimming against the current, you know, a la some of the examples I've given about other programs. And that's not to say that all programs are like that. I want to be clear. There's some really good programs in our industry, and there's some not good ones, and everything in between. But I think it's the difference between feeling like you're swimming against the current, trying to do good work, or feeling like you're swimming, you know, with the current, trying to do good work. And what we're trying to do here as a team, you know, across the board, is to figure out how to work well together and swim with the current. Because ultimately, you know, we're in a service industry. That's what we do. It's all about our team. It's all about our people. And to use an example from another industry, the hospitality industry, you know, I heard a talk one time from Steve Wynn, the founder of Wynn Hotels. You know, and he talked about that. He talked about how important the team was and how important their hiring processes were, and that, you know, he knew and he acknowledged when he gave this talk that, you know, he wouldn't be the one checking people in at the front desk of the Wynn Hotel, or the one, you know, providing concierge services or other services in the hotel. That it was really important to build a culture that supported his team and his staff, because they were the ones who ultimately would be interfacing with the clients of his hotel and their guests. And I think that same model and that same analogy is appropriate here, that you know, there's so many people in our industry who want to do good work, who want to help people. And we have you know, we're really fortunate to have a staff here who are very much of that mindset. And I think my role, and candidly, I think the role of any owner in our industry, is to find the best ways to support their team and support that staff in doing excellent work. And that's been a real focus of ours here.
Yep, absolutely. And that goes really back to exactly, you know, that individualized piece, and really making sure that we understand the product we're providing is, you know, treatment is our product, right? And, you know, my experience before this was I worked for Nordstrom for many years, and that customer service piece translates so well to what we're doing, which I never would have imagined. I draw on that experience on a daily basis. It's really, you know, it can be a really scary time. It can be a really amazing time because you see somebody finally getting the help that they need, but really remembering that. Like, I think the one thing I'll say on this is I remind the team often that this might be the individual who's coming to treatment. This might be their only shot. That's a big responsibility. We know what happens if addiction goes untreated. Eventually you die. And always remembering that what we're doing here, and you know, why we're doing it, is super important. Like, it is genuinely, you know, it's a big responsibility, and they may only have that one shot. And it's easy to forget that. We need to be reminded often that we have an opportunity to really make a difference in somebody's life. And it's our responsibility to make sure that it's a positive experience, and we help them through it, at least on our end. So.
And I think that's, you know, the remembering why, and the previous slide, putting clients first. You know, we've, as a leadership team, I mean, we've had some tough circumstances to deal with. You know, we've had, you know, sometimes, you know, maybe a particular client isn't as engaged as we would hope for them, or they're, you know, we have certain rules here at Wasatch Crest that are important to keep the entire community safe, and to provide a really positive treatment experience for everybody who comes here. And And let's just say, for example, we've had somebody who was being disruptive to that process, and despite sort of numerous attempts to get them to engage and be a part of the team, so to speak, they were maybe not willing to do so, and we've had to ask them to leave the facility for the benefit of everybody else who is here. When we found ourselves in situations like that, we always take a step back and we try to think about, if this person leaves here and something bad were to happen to them, will we feel like we can look ourselves in the mirror and know that we handled it the best way possible? That's a question that we've always tried to remember and always tried to ask ourselves in each case. And going back to some of the examples that I used earlier where we've helped people, with an additional week or 2 weeks of treatment or whatever the case might be, or in some cases even a full scholarship, that we have always wanted to be able to, at the end of the day, go home, look ourselves in the mirror and feel proud of what we're doing and feel like we handle things in the best way possible with great regard and great respect for what we believe is the responsibility that we have in being a part of this industry and of this experience. As treatment professionals, we do feel like we have an obligation to those we serve, to the clients we serve, to the families who are part of their journey. And imagine yourself as a family member and you don't know what to do. You want your loved one to get it so badly and to end this experience of using and all of the negativity that comes from that, and for us to be a really positive part of that journey for folks. Super important to us.
And I think before we take questions here, somebody said something to me early on that I always remember, and it's kind of the trifecta. Like, we're always trying to balance the safety and the needs of the individual with the safety and the needs of the entire milieu, all of the clients in the program, and the safety of our staff, right? It's the three things that we're always trying to balance and make those decisions wisely. It's our responsibility to make it a safe, healthy treatment experience for the entire group, the individual and the staff. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that.
I agree. I agree. And I'll just touch on one other point before we get to the questions, which is, from a leadership perspective, whether it's the owner or whether it's our clinical director, Rich, or others in our leadership team here at Wasatch Crest, we use a term here that I think is really important, and we talk a lot about servant leadership, which is, and what that really means to us is leading by example. When I bump into somebody in the facility here who may not know me, and they ask me, who are you? What do you do? When I'm meeting them for the first time, and I say, I'm the janitor, I'm the picture hanger, the trash taker outer, whatever needs to be done. And I think that's a culture here that is, I think it's important. We are, as we said, in a service industry, and I think part of that team culture is being helpful in any way possible at each moment throughout the day. And I guess it was a couple years back now, we renovated our facility to make it nicer for our clients and for their experience. And most of that work that we did ourselves. My wife was here, I was here, Rich was here, 18-hour days for probably 4 to 6 weeks in jeans and t-shirts, painting walls and replacing floors and doing all kinds of things. And I think that's a good example of the sort of culture that we've established here, which really speaks to that service element, servant leadership and service to our clients, of being available to them and to their families, each day during their journey here at Wasatch Crest and after their journey here as a part of our alumni program and our family support system.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree.
So that's kind of what we have prepared for the day in terms of general remarks. Are there any questions?
Thank you, guys. That was great. This is Kayla again. Yeah, just as a reminder, everyone who is listening, you can ask questions by using the GoToWebinar control panel and by typing in your questions into the box there, and we'll make sure that Rich and Jim get them answered. Rich and Jim, that was so great. Thank you so much for that. We do have a couple of questions right now. Could you share a little bit about Wasatch Crest's treatment experience? I know we have we always seem to have like very creative therapeutic exercises. And what kind of goes into creating a culture that encourages the therapist to explore and come up with unique therapeutic exercises for the clients?
So that's a good question. So my whole thing, like we have some objectives, right? When a client comes in, there's certain things that we need to help them with depending on the level of care. My experience has been that if I can find out what the therapist or the staff member, generally the clinicians facilitating the group, like what gets them excited, and be super thoughtful about who's running which groups and what the purpose is. So one of the things I did is I said, okay, so everybody give me a list of every group that you've been running, right? Usually 8 weeks or so of residential groups, for example. And then why? What's the purpose? And like really trying to understand like what it is that they love to do and matching that strength with the exercise. As it's been really cool to see. You know, I love doing a hike and a process group in a clearing of trees. That's my thing, is getting outdoors and moving and being in nature and connecting that way. And you know, really aligning each clinician with the topic and the purpose makes a big difference. And it allows them to be creative, right? If you're excited about something, I mean, that's where the creativity starts. Like, how am I going to get to the destination and be excited about it?
And I think too, from a, you know, I think you start with a basic assumption that people that come into this industry come in with an innate desire to help people. They come in with a certain set of talents and intelligence and abilities and that desire to help people. And you could, you know, that is a you know, breeding ground for, you know, creativity and ideas and things like that. And I think the job of leadership is to encourage and support that innovation and those ideas and that creativity, and not to stifle it. And that's not to say that every idea is going to get approved and implemented and all that, because the reality is, you know, not all of them do, but a lot of them do. And I think in our culture here, what we've tried to do is start with that basic assumption that the members of our team, you know, are closest to our clients, our therapists and our operations team, and they will come up with the best ideas about how to give our clients the best possible treatment experience here. And our job as leaders is to support them in the implementation of those ideas, and to see that our service here continues to get better and better and better each day and each week and each month.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great, guys. Thank you. One more question. So you talked a lot about how Wasatch Crest gives personal, individualized treatment to all of our clients. How do you guys create a culture that encourages this while avoiding compassion fatigue? So how do you get our clinicians to give this very compassionate individual treatment to each and every client without kind of falling victim to compassion fatigue?
I can speak just from my side of it. It's really like the weekly one-on-ones, really checking in with the clinicians and trying to get a read on where they're at and jumping in when we need to, right? The team is so dedicated. It's easy to get that compassion fatigue, and I think it's our job as leaders to make sure that people are taking the time that they need, that they are getting the support that they need. A lot of times I'll sit down with them and the conversation, it starts off about work and then ends up, getting an update on their kids, but just really like letting them know that they have the space to let you know when they need a break or when they need, some additional support. And I honestly think that's the biggest part of it, is just knowing where your staff's at and being mindful to that and being open and willing to hear what they have to say and meet them where they are.
I think I would add to that, the individualized treatment piece. I think the best example that I can use for that is our openness to feedback. So for example, every client who goes through Wasatch Crest at the end of their time here, when they're moving on to their next phase of their journey, they fill out a client satisfaction survey, and we really take that feedback to heart. But in addition to that, every week, every Friday, we have a meeting here at Wasatch Crest that we call our community meeting, basically, where a couple of our senior staff sit in with all of the clients, and the objective of that meeting is to get feedback from our clients about their experience while they're here. And it's both positive and corrective. Our clients will share typically mostly positive things about their experience here, and then they'll also share some things that they wish were better. And we take that feedback and we go to work immediately off the back end of that meeting to implement things that they asked for. And the reason I use that example is because in our most recent community meeting, which was last Friday, one of the clients here currently at Wasatch Crest said very specifically, I'm super impressed with what you guys do. I've been to multiple other treatment centers. This experience here is very different. A lot of people say that they provide individualized treatment, but you guys actually really do it here. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we listen. We listen to what their needs are, and we try and maybe not in every single instance, but maybe there's some things that are being asked for that we just, for one reason or another, can't provide. But for the most part, we really try hard to listen to our clients and be really, really responsive to their needs. And then on the compassion fatigue side, I would just note the analogy that I used, previously. This is hard work. It's difficult work, and it's not for the faint of heart. And I think the analogy I used earlier of swimming against the current versus swimming with the current, I think if you can create a culture where your entire team feels like you're swimming with the current, the work doesn't seem so demanding and so draining, potentially day after day. I think if you feel like you're going to work every day, you have the best intentions to help people get better, and you feel like you're just swimming against the current every single day, and you're not getting the support that you need, I think that can feel really draining. And the workday in either of those environments can be basically the same, but one feels very draining and very fatiguing, and the other feels exciting and supportive and rewarding. And so I think that culture really plays into that compassion fatigue thing quite a bit. Absolutely.
All right, well, thanks, guys. That's all the questions I have for you. Just to wrap up really quickly, these are upcoming webinars. So on the 16th, let's see, Lindsay Fenton, our Director of Utilization Review, is going to be talking about how to advocate for clients' recovery to insurance companies. And then the following webinar is going to be on our admissions process. So our Interim Director of Admissions will be presenting on how to get clients into treatment, how to best prepare them, and sort of overcoming any obstacles to admissions. And then on September 30th, Rich McDonald, our clinical director, will be back to talk about efficient provider communication and how to maintain that while clients are in treatment. And then if you guys will just go to the next slide for me. That is our admissions phone number and our website, wasatchcresttreatment.com. So feel free to call us or visit our website to learn more. That's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Jim and Rich, for giving an awesome presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone,
Thanks,
for joining
everyone.
today, and appreciate the opportunity to share more about what we do. We love what we do here, and we love sharing it. So have a wonderful day.
All right.
Thank you.